Broadcasting live from the Business Radio X studios in Phoenix, Arizona. It's time for Valley Business Radio, spotlighting the Valley's best businesses and the people who lead them.
Hello and welcome to Valley Business Radio, where we tell the stories that traditional media tends to ignore and help connect you to the right people. I'm your host, Dr. Adrian McIntyre, and I'm joined in the studio today by Scott Hansen, publisher of the Arizona 100. Now, this is a series we're doing every other week here because the Arizona 100 is a unique publication. It comes out twice a month. It's a digital publication that provides quick and concise, yet thorough and interesting stories about events and people and the news that's really shaping the agenda throughout the state. Scott, you have been in the state for a long time. Your role here at HMA Public Relations gives you a unique view on the state. And the Arizona 100 is a unique way to reflect that back to businesses and communities throughout the state. Tell us a little bit about why you wanted to be involved in this in the first place, and then we'll talk about what's coming up in this issue.
Well, there are so many things that are covered in the news, and there are a lot of things that are not covered. And we really wanted a forum for thought leadership and for things that you might not see in the mainstream media. And all of the articles are exactly 100 words, which is kind of fun. And it poses a challenge for our writing staff to come up with these articles that are exactly 100 words. But, you know, you can get what you need to know in a short amount of time.
This is a publication that's available online, but it also comes as a newsletter into the inbox. It's free to subscribe. We'll have all the information about that at the end, but you've got an issue coming up. And what are some of the stories? What are some of the things that we're going to learn about in the next issue?
Well, we have quite a few articles, and one of the top articles is the best and the worst states to start a business. Well, you've started a business here.
I have.
In Arizona, of course, me as well. And Arizona ranks 7th.
That's not bad. You know, one of the things that really attracted me to Arizona was the fact that it's a very interesting, very business-friendly environment, and at some level, it's still kind of early. I mean, it's a fast-developing area. There's a lot of incentives and just a lot of benefits.
Well, and I think you and I were just talking before we went on the air about the international aspect of business here, in particularly in Arizona, and particularly with Mexico. We do have so many opportunities that are available to us. And some of the key indicators for the survey that was done by Wallet Hub related to this article, startups per capita, 5-year survival rate on businesses. You know, I used to hear that once you made it past the second year, you were good to go, but they looked at it as 5 years. Labor costs, job growth, and access to resources, all things that they considered in this report. And of course, there's an article about it in this upcoming Arizona 100.
You know, making into the top 10 of anything good is always something worth celebrating. And I think it's an indicator that Arizona really is a contender, not just for small business, but the large companies that are either relocating their headquarters here or opening additional locations here. It's a real indication that a lot of positive movement in the economy here in Arizona.
Right. And we have the list of who the top 10 are. And of course, we also have the list of who the bottom 10 are. And it's interesting. It just, again, a quick read, but it'll give you a real snapshot of business-friendly states and maybe not-so-friendly business states.
Yeah. What else you got going on here?
Well, the Chase Building team has broken ground on Tucson's Union on 6th down in southern Arizona. And it's going to be an apartment complex, and it's right in downtown Tucson, and they're expected to open it up in 2020. And that whole area in downtown Tucson is really revitalizing, and a lot of cool things happening down there. And the article by Barry Chase talks about some of the things that will be included in this complex: pool, fitness center, parking, direct access to the 4th Avenue Entertainment District, which is really kind of a fun area in Tucson if you ever get a chance.
You know, in such a fast-growing state, someone who has a pulse on the finger of that is always the construction and building industry. We've had 2 different folks from Chase Building Team on Valley Business Radio, and they have a fascinating perspective on different developments. They're, of course, involved in everything from public sector projects to nonprofits, education, commercial, just a lot of things worth paying attention to.
Yeah, and we were talking about the best states to do business in. I think Chase Building Team is a great example of a business that is just booming because of what's going on in our economy. And they've got it figured out, that's for sure.
You know, speaking of education, one of the things that is commonly lamented is that kids don't get a lot of training in school in some of the things that come to matter a lot in life. And one of those is financial literacy. You've got a story about that. What's going on here?
Right. Paris Davis from Washington Federal has written an article really talking about children need regular lessons in financial literacy. And I can remember growing up here, and we actually learned those things in school, how to balance a checkbook, how to write a check, things along those lines. Well, the schools aren't doing much of that or as much of it anymore, and it often falls on the parents to handle that kind of stuff outside of the classroom. And so, I think as a banker, Paris sees this on a regular basis and understands that there is a significant need for that in our community to make sure that our kids understand what financial literacy is all about. How to operate. And
even when it's not a checkbook anymore, maybe it's your Venmo balance, but in any case, the dollars and cents still matter, and knowing how to keep track of that is super important.
Right. It certainly is. And, I think there's a lot of things that we had opportunities as kids growing up. For example, if you had a paper route, you had to sort of know how much money you were spending and how much you're getting, or if you mowed yards for a living, or if you babysat, any of those types of things as you were a kid growing up, you kind of learned those things. But today, there's much less of that. And
it's different. I mean, I think that, with the rise of the gig economy and a lot more opportunities for freelancing and the side hustle and things, it's certainly changing. And so keeping abreast of that, the fundamentals still matter. And keeping abreast of those changes is very important.
It is. And, everybody likes something free, right?
Yes.
So on Saturday, July 27th, National Chicken Tender Day. Both of PDQ's Arizona restaurants, they have one in Tempe, one in Paradise Valley, offering free, fresh, never frozen chicken tenders.
Well, that's amazing.
Yeah.
Free chicken.
Yeah.
On the 27th.
Right. PDQ stands for People Dedicated to Quality. So good chicken tenders available at both of their Arizona locations.
That's not what I remember it standing for from when I was a kid, but I'm glad to see this has been reclaimed for a new cause.
Exactly. And, so much of what we're seeing now in the way we consume media is social media. Eric Olson from Fast Turtle has an article in this next Arizona 100 about how social media has made it easier for businesses and brands to reach out, but he's also emphasizing the importance of having a call to action. So there's an article, this Arizona 100 about that.
That's super important. I talk to a lot of business owners that are really trying to, especially the solopreneurs, the small businesses, even medium-sized businesses that are still somewhat firmly planted in the traditional ways of doing business. And there's a lot of noise out there about digital and online things. So having an expert like Eric Olson really provides some clarity about this key concept, a call to action. You've got to give an opportunity for someone to do something. And so that's very important.
It is. So, are you a cigar guy?
I have sampled a few cigars. I'm not in any way a connoisseur, but tell me what you got about cigars here.
Well, came across a very interesting story. Fumar Cigars started here in Arizona back in 1995, and the owner of the company is really an interesting guy. He's been very successful. He created what's called a concierge, cigar concierge, where he will go into resorts or golf clubs or country clubs and sort of set up the cigar stand, if you will. And he's been so successful in doing this his success has allowed him, he's taken more than 1 million cigars to American troops around the world, hand-delivered them for their own private cigar parties or things like that for troops that are stationed abroad.
This is something beyond the cigar, and that's a phenomenal expression of this. This drive towards personalization and high-touch concierge services is certainly something I'm seeing a lot more of. You see it in the wine world. You see it in anywhere where people's tastes and then the complexity of the product offerings available create an information gap.
Right.
And, we had a while back, we had Megan Greenwood from Greenwood Brews, which is a local women-owned brewing company here in Arizona. And she was speaking about this with regard to beer. A lot of people feel intimidated, especially women who might like beer, but feel sort of intimidated by the complexity of craft beer. Really interesting to see the way that forward-thinking business owners like Fumar Cigars are really thinking about ways to serve their audience, their customers, and also the locations like the resorts and golf clubs and private clubs that might want to provide that service.
Right. And then to see what what they've done with their success to give back. And,
Absolutely.
Obviously, Fumar Cigars is committed to supporting the United States service people. And so I think that's really kind of a cool story.
Absolutely. Now, summertime, travel, stressful, traffic, long road trips. You've got a story in here about backseat driving.
Right.
Which some of us may have experienced once or twice in our lives. What's this all about?
Well, Mark Witter from Sanderson Ford has written an article in this coming Arizona 100 about Ford Motor Company doing a study that found that 52% of the backseat drivers felt compelled to speak up due to their lack of trust in either the driver or the other drivers on the road. Basically, he's got some tips on how to block that out and how to make your travel just a little bit safer this summer as you're traveling around the state or if you're traveling around beyond the state. We've also got an article that talks about it might be easier to get around the state just a little bit. The two companies, Sun Construction and Kiwi Infrastructure West Company, have completed the Ina Road interchange in Marana, which is just north of Tucson. And so that should make things a lot easier if you're traveling south between Phoenix and Tucson or headed down to Mexico or El Paso or wherever you might be headed this hot summer season.
They've just broken ground on this. It's a major interchange is part of the improvements that they're doing there, as well as, of course, improving all of the drainage and retaining walls and lighting and utility. These are things that sometimes when we're on the road, we take for granted. But when they're not there, they can not only cause safety concerns, but also, increase delays and frustration. So that's an exciting project. And there's some other things going on the building side of things. What's the story about this hotel in Arizona?
Well, I think this is kind of an unusual story. There's a new hotel called Ambiente, a landscape hotel. It's going to open in Sedona, and very interesting place. It's going to have 40 cube-shaped guest atriums, each elevated above the ground by steel piers, and they'll have tinted glass and rusted metal and sort of a back to nature hotel, if you will. I'm kind of interested to see what this is going to look like. I
saw pictures of this, or they were artist renditions or something. But in any case, the idea here is to really blend the new construction into the natural landscape, so that instead of being an eyesore or something imposed on the natural hills and vegetation, it's really integrated into the topography. And there's good sustainability reasons as well as aesthetic reasons for doing that.
Yeah, almost like a theme park, if you will, for nature lovers and people that really are into that kind of thing, I think.
Yeah, absolutely. I'm looking forward to seeing that project unfold.
And then here in town, in the Phoenix area, up at Desert Ridge, the Stir Coffee Bar and Gin and Reel is going to be opening. And it's going to have traditional and adult versions of coffee-type beverages and breakfasts in the morning, and then at night turns into, kind of an interesting place. It'll have a hidden entrance, be intimate and dark, kind of an old Hollywood vibe with projectors, and they won't even have bar stools. They'll have like director's chairs to sit in. So it should be kind of an interesting place.
I mean, who doesn't love a good speakeasy, right?
Right, exactly.
And man, I tell you, Desert Ridge has got a lot of interesting things going on there. That's close to us. We live up in Anthem, and so I'm often over there. And just the unique and new offerings available there are pretty exciting. Well, Scott, tell folks about how they can subscribe to the Arizona 100 to get all the details about this coming issue and also get on the list. It's free to subscribe, isn't it?
Sure is. It's free, yes. The Arizona100.com, and there's a button to click on to subscribe, and then you get this delivered into your email box twice a month.
Cutting-edge stories, 100 words or 100-second videos that really give you an update on what's new and interesting around the state of Arizona. Scott Hansen, publisher of the Arizona 100, thank you for joining us in the studio today.
Always a pleasure. Great seeing you.
For all of us here at Business Radio X, this is Dr. Adrian McIntyre, and we'll see you next time on Valley Business Radio.